Hello everyone, I'm Santiago, and today I'm gonna be testing Injustice 2 on the GeForce GTX 1060, 6GB for FPS monitoring. I'll be using CAM. If you want to download the software, there's a link down in the description. And if you enjoy the content and want to support the channel directly, there are Humble and Amazon affiliate links down in the description as well. So Injustice 2, I'll be doing 1080p, 1440p and 4K. To skip none of those sections of the video, check the description below. So first I'll show you 1080p with the maximum settings, and that's more than enough to be at 60 frames per second pretty much all the time. Then I crank up the resolution to 1440p, but this time I lowered lighting from high to medium and particles from very high to high, and that was enough to be at 60 frames per second all the time as well. And finally at 4K I overclocked the GTX 1060, but that still wasn't enough to hit 60 frames per second at the lowest settings. I was hitting 40 to 50 frames per second pretty much, which made the game feel like it was in slow motion, which is not good for a fighting game. So I recommend avoiding 4K and sticking to 1080p max settings or 1440p on a mix between high and ultra. But now I'm going to talk to you about some stuff about performance and the options menu. I didn't test a better CPU since the CPU usage is very low. As you can see, it will be pretty much below 60% most of the time, and the GPU is being utilized well. So if you have a better CPU, you won't see a difference with this gameplay, so keep that in mind. So in the options menu there are more settings than I was expecting, so it's a good surprise. The game will recommend you to use high texture if you have 4GB of VRAM, and if you use very high, it recommends to have a 6GB of VRAM video card. For what I could see, if I use very high on a 4GB card, it stutters on some levels, on some others it doesn't, so I recommend you try it out. Maybe very high works fine for you. 720p seems to be fine with very high settings, even with 4GB of VRAM. Then for 2GB of VRAM, I recommend using medium, and that should be fine. Then the thing that gave me the biggest performance boost without changing the quality that much was lighting. If you use medium instead of high, for example on the 1050 Ti, if I had everything maxed out, I had like 53, 55 FPS on the most demanding places. But after I lowered lighting from high to medium, I got 60 FPS pretty much all the time. So I recommend you check it out. Then the other options that will help you out to get better performance are shadow quality, shadow technique in some instances, screen space reflections, ambient occlusion and particles density. Those options were the ones that gave me the biggest boost in performance. Particles mode didn't help me that much at all. It ran pretty much the same for me. And we also have a dynamic resolution option, which I recommend you try it out. I didn't get any boost in performance by using dynamic resolution, so I'm not sure if it's working or not. And you'll see a lot of screen tearing in my videos. That's because I'm not using VSync, but the game is capped at 60 frames per second. So if you want to avoid screen tearing, just enable VSync and you'll be fine. And while this game, since it's a fighting game, if you're below 50 frames per second, the game will be running pretty much in slow motion. Below 50 it already feels like slow motion, so I recommend you avoid that and stay at 60 frames per second constant, or at the very least over 50 frames per second. But yeah, not much else to mention. One of the worst places for me, at least in performance, was the swamp map. So just in the swamp area I got like the worst performance. Then we have the Gorilla City, which was also a big hit, but it wasn't as big as on the swamp. So I recommend you try out the game in that level to see if the performance is good or not. And the game also has an auto-detect option to tweak the game for you. So for example, you have a 1050 Ti and you want 60 FPS on 1080p, you just select 1080p, then select the auto-detect option, and the game will run the benchmark many times, trying different settings until it finds the best settings. It works pretty well actually. I was quite surprised that it lowered the settings very similar to what I did in the past to get 60 frames per second. It sometimes lowers some extra settings that are not necessary to get 60 frames per second all the time, but it's very close to what the best settings will be, so I recommend you try it out first. But yeah guys, that's pretty much it. I hope you keep enjoying the video. Thanks for watching and see you next time.
Nothing more than a nuisance. Begin.
You're just a man in a suit. Now. Don't waste my time. Ready to quit yet?
Superman wins. Begin.
I'm done holding back. I will pulverize you. Now. There's no peace in revenge.
Superman wins. Begin.
That's what I call justice. Stay down.
Ready for more?
Actually, I'm not.
wins. Begin.
The strong protect the weak. Ready to quit yet?
Superman wins.